Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your 27th and 3/4 this time. I'm kind of moving up a little bit. Favorite dad in the family community, Papa West, Jacob West. And I am here to bring you all a fantastic late TV fights. It is that time of the week again to yell about our TVs and how they don't work like they used to. And also yell about the stuff that comes on the TVs. So, because I am such a young old man, I could be yelling about this for 12 hours, but we're not going to do that. Instead, I have two great gentlemen coming to take each other on. First one, the only man who has left our planet of the five of us, that would be Alan Shepard, Dr. Spaceman. Alan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Aloha, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Excited to be arguing and yelling at the idiot box, as they call it, about the shows they're in with the esteemed gentleman Kevin here. This is gonna be fun. Always have fun with these. So let's go.
All right, and already alluding to your competitor, which I'm glad you didn't call him the idiot box, because that would have been trash talk.
Would never do that. No.
And you're too nice for trash talk.
That's right.
Calling him the esteemed gentleman, we have Kevin Poss. Kevin, how are you doing today?
At least you didn't call me the boob tube. No, I'm doing great and excited to make I think this is my debut in late TV fights. So I'm excited and hope to put up a good fight and just looking forward to this. This looks to be some good times.
Definitely. Well, it's your debut since I've taken over. So it's definitely good to have you here. And along with me, it will not just be me listening to these two. I have some judges here with me to help come to a decision on who is going to win. The first one, right on that side, as I stab through the wall and hit him, is the Raptor Master, Jonathan Peck. Jonathan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good tonight here, Jacob. I recognize these two people down the bottom of the screen right here, though. I have the pleasure of judging them, one of them in the match opposingly right here. Which I hope one of them, if you don't know what I'm referring to, have the clue right here where this time is stopped. It's stopped at all times right here. And I didn't go into the ground lines of it yet, though, but I'm going to give it a little bit warning right here. For me, I'm doing very good though, and I can't wait for this match.
Yeah, so Jonathan will be keeping time for us, and he is not afraid to yell at you if you go past time and keep talking. So there's a difference between as soon as someone says time, you quit talking, and someone says time, and you're like, I don't care what you say. I play by my own rules. I'm not done with this debate. I still have 5 points.
Well, the short sweet answer is, when I say time, that means shut up.
All right, and rounding out this panel of chaos, we have the only person not a part of chaos, a part of pain, Mr. Payne, the Carmel Mountain, Ryan Payne. Ryan, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm just enjoying this chaos while I'm just sitting back here and eating some chips. Give me enough time to save my voice to when I have to finally lay judgment down on these two men if they don't wow me with their questions and with their answers. So we'll just see what happens.
Definitely. And we have to have a little bit of chaos to entertain each other. While some of y'all are considered non-essential and are stuck at home, you have to have some sort of entertainment and some sort of person interaction. Me, on the other hand, I'm freaking tired of people. I hate people right now, but it is what it is. Y'all are all thousands of miles away from me. I can deal with y'all for a little bit. So, with that, once again, like I was saying, this is a late TV fight. The way late TV fights, along with all of our other debates work, we have given these competitors 4 questions that they've given us answers, hopefully studied a bunch on, ready to yell at each other, give each other points, take points away, counter, whatever you want to do. You have 4 predetermined categories. questions. Each question is going to be broken down into 3 rounds. The first round is a 90-second opening. This is where we ask you to tell us what your answer is. Tell us why you picked that as your answer. Whatever you want to tell us, it's your 90 seconds. Do with it as you please. Next, we will go into a 5-minute free-form debate. This is 5 minutes for you. You are free to form your debate. That's why they call it a free-form debate, I guess. This is where y'all two yell at each other. Again, like I said, give points on why yours is better. Give points on why yours is worse. Whatever the question is. The only thing we ask is do not talk over each other. We are all friends here. We do not hate each other. If you are talking over each other too much, that means I can't hear what you're saying. That means my fellow judges can't hear what you're saying. We're going to call a timeout, which brings in one of the first rules we have, the timeout rule. This is 10 seconds, run off the clock, where everyone is quiet, not talking. It's when you go to your rooms, think about your life choices, and then recollect, and then get back. And again, I hate people right now. I will use it if I need to. Please don't talk over each other. After the 5-minute freeform debate, we will go on to the third round, which is the closing round. This is 60 seconds to fully sell us on why your answer is the correct answer and why your opponent's answer is the incorrect answer. After that, we will go on to the judges. We will award whoever we think did the better job the point. First person to 3 points wins. In the off chance that it is tied 2-2 after the 4 questions, I do have a speed round set up. And we'll just talk about the speed round once we get there. The only rules that we have, I just talked about the timeout rule. The second rule we have is the extra minute extension. Again, I'm going to think of a cool TV-related name for it. I just haven't done it yet. That I'm going to call it. Pretty much in either your opening or your closing, just say, hey, can I add a minute to it? You get 1 use. Only thing I ask is that you do it before you start arguing, or like right in the beginning of your argument. Like if we're counting you down and you're like, can I have an extra minute? That's too late. I'm sorry. You need it before you really start doing it. Other than that, I think that's all the rules. Each competitor did give me a TV show to use as a strength for a question. So we are moving on to question number 1. And this came in the TV show of Community, which Alan gave me as a strength. What community teacher would make the best real-life teacher? Alan, since this was your show, we are going to have you start us off. You have 90 seconds on the clock. Time starts when you start talking.
All right. I chose the 5th season champion of Community, the criminology professor, Buzz Hickey, played by Jonathan Banks. The reason I chose him is because he was throughout the entire season of that 5th season, and you really saw him really be an actual closest thing that Community could have to an actual teacher where you could actually learn something from them because of all the crazy, chaotic characters in that series. There was one teacher I thought who actually made an impact for our beloved gang of students as we followed them throughout the seasons of the show. And that was Buzz Hickey, Professor Hickey. Just a lovable old curmudgeon of a teacher and the best kind of real world teacher. If you could put anything in the chaos that is Community into the real world, I think he would be the one. So I think in the best real life professor, he would definitely be that guy. And I'll concede the rest of my time.
All right, Alan conceding the rest of the time. Haha, your guy's last name is Hickey. That's the inner child of me coming out. I'm sorry, guys. I do that occasionally. So, Kevin, we are moving on to you. And I'm going to stop just for a second. In the future, and this goes to everyone watching and the judges, if you are competing and you wish to concede the rest of your time, do exactly what Alan did. As soon as you're done, say, hey, I'm conceding the rest of it. Because if you don't, whoever's keeping time is going to keep taking time. We're going to wait for that timer to be done. And I've been the idiot just doing the countdown. You quit talking. Please tell us. It makes this go by a lot quicker. All right, so Kevin, we are moving on to you. You have 90 seconds to open up your argument. Time starts when you start talking.
I went ahead and chose John Michael Higgins' character, the accounting teacher and debate coach, Professor Eustace Whitman. We don't see very much of Professor Whitman, but what we do see of him is very enlightening. He's very approachable. He's very encouraging, and he doesn't let anybody skate by in his class. And those are things that I like in a professor. Having gone to college, it's something that it's a quality you look for in professors. Jeff Winger is looking for a class to skate by in, and it just so happens that Professor Whitman's class, he gets in and he thinks this is the class he's going to skate by. Not so fast. So I will get to that in my argument, but I will leave you with this: Carpe diem, seize the day, and I will yield the rest of my time.
All right, so we have a guy named Eustace and a guy named Hickey. If this was funniest names, y'all would both have a good argument. But this is not. This is who would make the best real-life teacher. As we go into the 5-minute round, time starts when someone starts talking.
All right. Whitman is an extraordinary character. I'll give you that. He's a very extraordinary character. But as far as an actual teacher you'd want in real life, the guy's a maniac. It's his interpretation of seizing the day. So whatever he decides is somebody actually seizing the day. But what about for them? Because Jeff spent the whole time, Mr. Winger spent the whole time trying to fake out seizing the day. And yes, of course, Whitman could see that, but he ultimately got faked out at the very end of the episode when Britta faked him out by seizing the day, quote unquote, for him. A great lovable character, but as far as a real life teacher, you're not going to learn much from this guy. I mean, he's a maniac, a wild man, and you're going to learn how to disrupt and put chaos into everything instead of actually learning something that could help you as an individual. And good for a show, but in real life, not so much.
I argue that with even in the first 5 minutes of his class, you see Shirley get up in front of the class, and he says, "What are you doing here?" And she says, "I'm here to get an education. I'm here to get a degree." And he says, "No, what are you doing here?" And she says, "I wasted 15 years of my life." And she, expresses, some of her guilt and some of her past, and expresses some emotion. And he gets that out of her, something that a professor normally wouldn't be able to do. And you can see it on her face, that enlightenment, and that alone is just that is something that yes, Jeff maybe skated by with Britta's help, but did he though? Because he actually got something out of that. He didn't skate by on his own accord. And I would say Buzz Hickey, though, he's not exactly the one I would want to teach me either. He has a terrible relationship with his son in episode 10. He sells stolen textbooks in episode 9. He chains Abed to a filing cabinet in episode 7.
He does these things by doing what he's the professor of. The reason they were selling the textbooks was for to if you're going to think like a criminal and understand criminology, you have to do what a criminal does, and to save Greendale. He was on the Save the College committee, and so they had to do that in order to do that. He actually had a story arc with him and his relationship with all of the students. And Abed learned something at the end of he chained him to a desk for a while, but He needed to teach him a lesson, and he did it. And he taught Abed that lesson. With Shirley, with Whitman, you could see it as enlightenment, but I see it as her having almost a nervous breakdown in the span of 30 seconds in the show. And in that same class at the beginning, he made Shirley cry and admit something she probably wouldn't admit to a classroom full of people. And at the very end of that same hour of that class, he broke a girl's ankle by telling them all to get up on the desk, and she fell off and broke her ankle. And then he wasn't, oh, go to the nerve, just walk it off, you're fine, you're good, don't worry about it. Which is, a liability that, as a professor, you don't want that. And as a student, I definitely don't want to see that in a professor.
Yeah, he also tells Jeff that teaching to make ends meet, he laughs that off and tells him that he's been doing that for 15 years. And he gives Annie an A- just to give her an A-, just to show her that she's not up to snuff, that she's not as good as she thinks she is. So
yes, because her priorities were in the wrong spot, and something as a professor you need to do is kind of know how your students operate and see what can help them, and ultimately that helped Annie learn a little bit of humility in herself and in what was going on in the situation there. And on top of that, he gave him all detective skills by solving the ass crack bandit case that was happening, that was going on. And again, for as wacky and as crazy as this school was, and these teachers were, I think he was the one that definitely in real life situations were teaching them real world things about themselves.
I agree.
All right, Kevin ending the argument with I agree. Bold strategy. Let's see how that pays out for him. All right, so as we move on to the 60-second closing, since we started off with Alan, Kevin, we are going to start off with you. 60 seconds to close out this argument. Time starts when you start talking.
This isn't a class or a college to teach life lessons and all that. He's a criminology professor. We don't even see him teach a class. He's basically just a replacement for Chevy Chase. Buzz Hickey is. John Michael Higgins comes in as Eustace Whitman and tells his class to seize the day. Yes, it is. He does have some wacky stuff about him, but it's Community. It's Dan Harmon. It is what it is. But the things that he gets out of his class, he gets Jeff to realize that maybe he does like Britta. He gets Shirley to realize what she's actually there for.
All right, Alan, moving on to you. 60 seconds. Close out this argument. Time starts when you start talking.
To say we never saw Buzz in teaching a class, we definitely saw him teaching these students and the group that he was a part of. And he taught, and the most important thing you want in a community college is to learn life lessons, how to be a better version of yourself. And Buzz Hickey did that with all of the characters that he interacted with, and not just in 2 seconds here and there, making somebody cry, breaking a kid's ankle, or trying to get Jeff to understand that he was too much of a jerk to see past his own nose. He already knew that, and I think Jonathan or Buzz Hickey definitely taught him more about that through the whole season and the whole arc of why it's important to become a teacher, why it's important to become the person that you are in this place. And as far as real life, in the real world situations, that's what I want. Somebody who can teach me life lessons, more about a better version of myself.
Time.
All right. Great first question. Great way to open up this debate. As we move on to the judging, Jonathan, I'm going to go ahead and start off with you. Who gets your vote and why?
My point was going to go to Alan on this one because he pointed out something that why his teacher that can teach us some if he were to teach a real life class right here, will teach up the things that some of the classmates for his class right here though. Kevin, you do pull up some interesting points of your picks though, but I don't think I wasn't that sure 100% enough of it right here. Even with your closing, I didn't feel like what you need as your teacher though to teach it if I have a classroom right here and I need to teach it for it. So my point is to get to Alan.
All right, Alan getting the first vote. Ryan, we're moving on to you. Who gets your vote and why?
Well, honestly, I'm going with the guy that gave me more to go on for his argument, and that is Alan. Because as much as Professor Whitman is a good choice on how he's able to change a character's attitude or so, but throughout I wasn't given enough more on Professor Whitman other than just that first episode. He brought, and especially the fact that when Kevin says that he's part of debate, you really don't see him implement that much. But with Alan, not only did he talk about more examples, he also chopped down Kevin's choice of Professor Whitman. And also the fact with the teacher, I mean, you have one who's a teacher who teaches a subject on how to live life, while another one is teaching you an actual study subject that you want to take while also giving you life lessons. So I'm going with the latter on that one. And I'm sorry, Kevin, if you had maybe chopped a little bit more on Buzz Hickey, it could have been an even. But Alan gets the point. But ultimately, you guys are wrong. The best community teacher I would have won was Professor Kane, the man who spent hours on in from prison to get his teaching degree.
You're correct.
Yeah, I'm surprised when you answer. I'm just surprised.
But no, Alan gets the point.
All right. So with that, Alan gets the first point. And my opinion does not matter, but because I like opinions, especially when they are my own. This round is what we would call a clean sweep. I, too, was also leaning towards Alan. Kevin, I wish you would have brought some more as far as the points against Mr. Hickey. You made the comment of he has personal issues with his son. He chained Abed to the desk and he was selling the illegal books or the illegal textbooks. I would just been like, this guy belongs in jail, and just started hammering away. This guy shouldn't be teaching. He should be in jail. I wish you'd have brought a little bit more, and then maybe again, just like Ryan was saying, this could have been different. But again, great first question. As we move on to the second question. And this comes in Kevin's strength of Breaking Bad. And it is, after the success of Better Call Saul and Monte Carlo, what Breaking Bad character should get their own spin-off series? And before we get into this, yes, I know Monte Carlo's a movie. I don't care. I added in the question. Sue me. Personal, please do not sue me. You won't get anything out of me. All right, so Kevin, we are moving on. We're starting with you. You have 90 seconds to tell us who should get their own spin-off series. 90 seconds on the clock. Time starts when you start talking.
With Breaking Bad being the greatest TV show, I think it's better than Sopranos, better than Simpsons, better than Game of Thrones. I think there's more to explore there. I want to see what goes on after Walter White dies. And I want to see what happens to the White family. The dynamic of that family was it torn apart? Was it held together by a certain someone? I think it was, and I think that certain someone was Walt Jr. I think Walt Jr. might have taken over his dad's criminal enterprise. He has a dominant mindset for that sort of thing. He set up the website for his dad's money coming in, that fundraising website. He wasn't afraid to call his mom a bitch, his dad a pussy. He is his own man, and I think he would make a great villain in what I would call Heisenberg Jr. So I would like to see that that spinoff, and I will bequeath my time.
All right, Kevin going with Walt Jr. Alan, as we go to you, 90 seconds on the clock. Time starts when you start talking.
With Breaking Bad and with the spinoffs thus far, we've been seeing a lot of shows that Breaking Bad kind of started by other shows trying to be Breaking Bad, essentially is what I'm trying to say. We see a lot of the villain. We see a lot of people being the villain and trying to pull empathy from the viewer, and some successful and some not. Breaking Bad, a very good, successful show about empathizing with the villain. But I want to see if they can flip it. If Vince Gilligan can flip the script and go maybe towards seeing more of a good guy. And I think one of my favorite characters in the show, and I think we didn't get to see a lot of, we got to see a bunch, but not enough of, and that was Hank Schrader. That was the brother-in-law, Hank. Dean Norris, a great character actor, one of my favorites, and played him impeccably. And just a really interesting character to see the flip side, or maybe a prequel version of him, because ultimately his fate in Breaking Bad, we know what happens to him. But just like with Saul Goodman in the new Better Call Saul, they're showing the prequel of him, what happens to him before the events of Breaking Bad. I think it would be a great show to see a DEA agent in Hank, and seeing how he came to be, and maybe seeing the opposite side maybe of what he was viewing during the events of Breaking Bad, eventually getting to that and seeing that from the other side. I think that would be an interesting and fascinating show, a procedural show, and why not see it from the good guy's point of view for once, and I'll concede the rest of my time.
All right. Well, let's get into this. 5 minutes. Just like every other round and debate y'all been in. 5 minutes on the clock. Time starts when someone starts talking.
Hank Schrader's show would be great if you wanted something to fall asleep to every night. Hank is an awesome cop. I mean, he let the main criminal get away every time right under his nose. I mean, the Captain Cook vehicle was right there next to him, parked right next to his vehicle in the episode with Jesse, and he gets away. Walt is right under his nose throughout the entirety of Breaking Bad. He's dead by the end of Breaking Bad because of his stupidity, his rock collection, he's rude, and he's abusive towards his wife, verbally abusive towards his wife. I don't think that would make for a great show at all.
I don't know that I would say that he's stupid. I think you're undercutting or undermining the characters of Breaking Bad that were outsmarting him, and you're undermining their intelligence and the way they were able to get away with what they were doing, which is why we were so interested in Breaking Bad. Interested in how smart these two characters were. But Hank was, a victim of circumstance, kind of an everyman, more relatable than a meth cooking the professor or a high school science teacher and his underling with Jesse. I think Hank had a lot of flaws, but we all have flaws. But he was ultimately trying to do the right thing the whole time. And ultimately, we got to see how intelligent he was with certain aspects of other cases relating to other things. And eventually he did find out and discovered what was going on. And I think it undercuts Walter White's genius kind of, and the way we followed how he was getting away with what he was doing by saying that Hank was stupid. I don't think you'd want to watch a show if the opposition was too stupid to be dealt with or easily dealt with. I think it was clever what they were doing and trying to get away with certain things. With your show, you would say it's a Heisenberg Jr. We've already seen that. I mean, Jesse was pretty much a Heisenberg Jr. And I'm sorry, El Camino was, talk about going to sleep. That movie was sleep inducing. And I've seen, the drug dealers and on so many other episodes. If we want stories about drug dealers, we've got a million of them. Let's get a DEA agent. Let's see the flip side of that. And how interesting would it be to see, kind of, we want to go prequel with Hank, to see what was going on, his version, his side of it. The reason that maybe you think he was too stupid, because we're seeing his version and the way he sees the genius of the clue evading, or whatever it was, of these guys evading his capture ultimately. I think that you're undercutting that, and I want to see the good guy for once. I mean,
that's great, but I mean, I think you're taking my calling him stupid. I was being a little facetious there, but the way his dad doesn't really care about all the hard work and the fundraising he's putting into the site, I think that turns Walt Jr. cold, and I think that makes him it turns him into it drives him, and it makes him want to wonder why did he choose Jesse as his apprentice instead of him, and it makes an intriguing story as to, we can start as far back as to midway through Breaking Bad and see how it affected the White family from Walter White Jr.'s point of view, and see how it's affecting Walt Jr. Even with his cerebral palsy, he can use that as a crutch, no pun intended, to get through, and he can learn from his father. He can learn all the tips and tricks, and then once his father passes, then he can move on to whatever state needs to be and carry on that legacy. It's a legacy show, it's not so much a continuation show.
I think you saw that the way it affected the family through Skyler more, and I think you saw it through Walt Jr. I think you saw those big pivotal moments of him feeling those certain things. I think you already saw that in the show itself.
Skyler was nothing but a crybaby.
All right, as we move on to the closing, since we started off with Kevin, Alan, we are starting off with you. 60 seconds on the clock to close out this argument. Time starts when you start talking.
I think Hank was a very, very relatable, very interesting character, and I would want to see a show. We've seen so many shows about the drug trade, and especially done beautifully with Breaking Bad. I want to see the other side of it. I want to see the flip side of it, because my personal favorite moment in the whole series of Breaking Bad is when Hank is on that toilet and makes that discovery. When the look on his face, that's one of the best moments of the whole show. I want to see a show about that. I want to see Hank make more of those discoveries, and put those clues together. I want to see that more than a continuation of the story we've already got. We already had so many seasons of a drug dealer and how it affects his life and that kind of thing. I want to see the other side of it. I want to see a detective. I want to see a drug enforcement agent going through these trials and tribulations, making these big discoveries, and again, focusing on a positive, good character for once.
All right. Kevin, we are moving on to you to fully close out this question. 60 seconds on the clock. Close this out. Time starts when you start talking.
RJ Mitt has an unbelievable character arc, and I think there's more to be explored there. He goes and stays with Hank and Marie, and I think Vince Gilligan could turn this into something more. Do we need another procedural where we see another drug agent finding out clues and figuring out this and that, which the audience already knows? That sounds boring to me. I want to know, what RJ or what Walt Jr. was thinking during his high school years. What would it be like to go to high school when your dad's a meth cook? And what would it be like to want to take over that franchise and be able to successfully do so?
All right. Another great argument. As we move on to the judging phase, Ryan, I know you're in a state of deep thought, so I'm going to go ahead and have you open this up. Tell us who gets your point and why.
Okay. I mean, listening to arguments, it kind of feels to me that nobody likes Skylar. So I'm like, why the hell would you pick on her so much? No. Outside that, look, there were some good perspectives we're getting. One of the big thoughts in my brain was, are there any of them going to touch on the subject of the fact that Walt is dead if you try to do a spin-off with, with Walt Jr. or with Hank being alive, the fact that we also know where Walt ends. So the biggest issue is that none of them were able to tackle the Bryan Cranston equation, which I'll go with. But beyond that said, I did like both perspectives here, to where you could see Walt Jr. maybe start going down the same path as Walt did, but the difference was he wanted to understand his father more. And with Hank, we can see what he was like starting off in the DEA, working to gain position, meeting Marie, like sort of early sequels there. And I do like the idea. We get to see Vince Gilligan do a show from the perspective of a good guy instead of a bad guy, instead of a good man going bad, or a man who was, because so far with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, we have the idea of two good men going bad. So I do kind of like the idea that we finally get a chance to see a good man, not just going bad, but staying a good man, but he doesn't become as morally as upright as he is by the time we get to Breaking Bad. So I'm going to go with Alan on this one.
All right, going with Alan as we move on to me. And again, I was very back and forth on this one. I'm slightly leaning towards Kevin on this one. I do understand Alan making the comment of, we've seen the drug dealer. Let's see something else. But the fact is, it's a Breaking Bad spinoff, and Kevin really hit on the head. This is the legacy of Breaking Bad, going with Walt. And I did like how you brought up kind of the going out of New Mexico into any other states that he's needing. And also hitting that Hank's kind of an idiot. Who would want to see him if he can't see that Walt and Jesse are right under his nose and he can't see it. So again, I'm slightest of margins. I'm leaning towards Kevin. So Jonathan, we are at an impasse. Please fix this. Who gets your points and who gets the points and why?
All right. Excuse me. For me, I will give my point to Kevin also, because he put out some things right here, especially with his closing right here, why his show sort of might be more interesting right here when Alice picked with Hank, because that he pointed out some of the things like what was sort of what happened, like even supposedly if this series were to happen after Walt's death, here, that was just sort of like in that mindset, like what would you do that if your father's like a meth-head drug kingpin, basically right here with Alan right here. Though you do have a good start right here with Hank Dillon, put some interesting ideas right here, but Kevin for me really solidified but why his series might have the most potential might work though. So I would give my point to Kevin though, which I just want to say one last thing. I don't think Hank's an idiot, so I don't think he's stupid either, but just want to put that out there.
All right, and with that, Kevin gets the point and ties it up. Although I will say, Kevin, you missed a huge point for you. It would just make sense with Walt Jr. because he goes to Atlanta and starts selling drugs to Atlanta, and you start seeing the zombie apocalypse, and it all ties into The Walking Dead. Would have been perfect. You missed something. You missed gold right there. But it's okay because you still got the points. as we move on to question number 3 is, what TV series has the best opening theme? Since we start off with Kevin on this one, Alan, we are starting off with you. 90 seconds to open up this argument. Time starts when you start talking.
There have been many, many, many great opening themes to television shows. But what have been the most memorable? The most memorable, the one that once it's in your head, it isn't going anywhere. It's not going to leave. And mine is a simple story about a young man from a rough neighborhood who got in too much trouble and had to move to California to live with his aunt and uncle. And I'm not using the words because I don't have to, because now you know. Now the words are in your head because you know all the words to this song. Everyone knows all the words to this song. And that beat is in your head. Those words are in your head. Those lyrics will never leave your brain. Forever and ever and ever and ever. You could not listen to it for years. But as soon as somebody says, I was in West Philadelphia, born and raised, you can finish the rest of it. It's of course the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the opening theme. There's never been a more iconic opening theme to a television show. Nothing that sticks in the mind more than any television show. It's just incredible, flawless, and will stick with us for the rest of our lives. And I'll concede the rest of my time.
All right, Alan conceding the rest of his time. So, Kevin, we are moving on to you. You have 90 seconds to open up your argument. Time starts when you start talking.
As Alan said, his needs words, mine doesn't. Dun, 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 dun. It's Game of Thrones. Ramin Djawadi created a masterpiece with his orchestral theme that he put to this epic, and it won awards. It was triggered by the Magnificent Seven. It's a song that you can hum to. There needs no dialogue to it. It guides the audience each episode with the map into a sense of wonder and awe. You feel like you're on a magical, mystical quest. And I feel like this is the iconic score to a television show, if there ever was one. And I'll concede my time.
All right, we have Game of Thrones versus Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, a battle no one ever saw happening in the history of TV battles. Anyways, we have 5 minutes on the clock to battle it out. Time starts when someone starts talking.
Kevin, much respect to you, much love to you. But if I want to go to a funeral, yes, because I know when I hear that dun 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 whatever, I can't even hum the thing, because talk about falling asleep. I have never successfully made it through an opening of Game of Thrones. I know that's a personal thing. It's a thing, but that opening does not hook me, does not want me to go into that world. It tells me I'm going to go someplace dark, someplace that's not going to be very enjoyable, and I don't want to be there for a very long time because somebody, maybe me, might die. It's ominous, it's dreadful, it's horrible. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air song, from that quirky little funky beat at the very beginning before the lyrics even start, you know you're ready to have a good time. You're going to start bobbing your head, and it has that nostalgia and that good feeling instantly as soon as you hear the first 3 notes.
It's super iconic. Name the song.
Name the song?
Name it.
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air song? That's
Wrong.
the song.
It's called Yo Home to Bel-Air. Thank you.
That's a line in the song. That's not.
No, that's the name of the song, and it's composed by Quincy Jones and Jazzy Jeff. and it sounds like every other Will Smith song ever composed. So Ramin Djawadi is a fucking genius.
Okay, name one other Jamin Djawadi song.
Ramin Djawadi composed for Iron Man. He composed for he composed for
exactly. He composed one other song that you might be able to hum.
He composed for Prison Break. He composed for
Prison Break.
Jack
Ryan. The reason I know that show is because I was in that
Westworld, and he's won 2 consecutive Emmy awards for Game of Thrones for that song. So,
I'm sorry. Okay, let's talk about iconic TV songs, things that people are going to hold on to, they're going to remember, and everybody knows the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air song. I mean, I can go down the street right now. Well, I can't now, but on a regular time, if I go to the grocery market, supermarket, wherever I'm going to go, I say, "Hey, could you tell me the opening of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Can you tell me the theme song?" And somebody will start with the line, and then you're off to it. Yo, home's the Bel-Air. Everybody knows that. You just have to say that, and everybody knows what you're talking about. Something that should be iconic, or the best, is something that's going to hook you in and make you remember it. And more people had access to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air because it was on NBC. Game of Thrones, before we started this whole thing, I couldn't tell you the tune, the opening, those openings that you sang earlier. I couldn't tell you what that was. And even if you did that to anybody on the street, they probably couldn't tell you what it was because it was on HBO and not everybody had access to that. But everybody had access to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and everybody knew that song. Everybody knows the words of that song.
There aren't any words to the Game of Thrones intro. It's called, but anyway, it's a solemn, powerful song, and it moves with an inexorable purpose. It switches between a major, minor key, which repeatedly shows the backstabbing and conspiracy and unpredictability of the show. It ends with the dulcimer and the cantil, which is a chordophone, giving the adventurous feel and a shimmering quality. It's a genius piece of work if you listen to it.
And it can be well crafted, well made, and that's fantastic. But is it going to take you to a certain place? Is it going to make you feel a certain thing?
Absolutely
is it going to make you feel that joy, that excitement, and get you bobbing and get you moving and get you ready?
Oh man! Every episode of Game of Thrones I watch, I get so hyped up for watching that map open up and expand, watching each place I'm going to go to in that episode, listening to that opening intro theme. It's unbelievable.
But outside of that, are you going to listen to that when you go to the gym? Are you going to listen to that when you go run?
I actually do.
Because you want to feel ominous, or you want to feel that dread coming on. I want to listen to something that's more fun, more catchy, more memorable.
You listen
to a better mindset.
a 1 minute and 18-second Will Smith.
Yeah, if I need 1 minute to make me happy, I'm going to listen to it.
If I want to listen to that, I'm going to listen to Welcome to Miami.
Time. All right. Now it's time to move on to the closing. I do want to reiterate real quick the question: what TV series has the best opening theme? Take with that what you will. We're moving on to the closing. Kevin, we are starting off with you. 60 seconds on the clock. Time starts when you start talking.
The Game of Thrones theme has not only been around for 8 seasons, it's inspired so many covers, including a cello-only tribute by 2 cellos, a chamber version by a classical pop group, Aston. Weird Al Yankovic even performed a a parody version at the 66 Primetime Emmy Awards. Rachmaninoff even performed a version of it. There was a South Park episode where they even did a little diddle of it. This song it doesn't need dialogue. It doesn't need to be something that you can hum.
All right, Alan, we are moving on to you. The last 60 seconds of this argument to close us out. Time starts when you start talking.
When I'm about to watch a TV show, and there's going to be something at the beginning of it, it's got to put me in the mood of what I'm about to experience. And the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air tells me everything I need to know, gives me all the backstory that I need to know, in a nice, catchy, super fun, super head nodding song that makes me feel really, really good and prepares me for what I'm about to have, what I'm about to do. And I'm about to have fun with these characters that I love and that I'll remember forever. That song, more people heard that song, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, than ever heard the Game of Thrones tune. A lot of people could parody something. That doesn't mean it's going to be sticking in their mind. They're going to remember it. And about halfway through a song, maybe, oh, do I know what this is? Maybe it sounds vaguely familiar. As soon as you hear the first couple of notes of Fresh Prince, you know that song and you know the words, and it's going to put you in a good frame of mind, a happy spot, nostalgic, and you're going to feel good.
Time.
All right, as we move on to the judging, I'm going to go ahead and start this one out. Because unfortunately it's my turn in the pecking order. While I do not want to pick a winner because this was another great one. As far as defending on why their pick was the best theme, this was two very different arguments, two very different songs. Alan talking about how the music and the words go together to make it great. Kevin saying it's just the theme, you don't need the words. Which, fun fact, there are actually words to it, as you find out in later episodes when they start playing that theme. You can hear the little children singing it. I can't tell you what the words are. I can just tell you that there are words. And it's one of those where I'm going to have to lean, just like last time, slightest of margins on this one to Kevin. Just because, Alan, you were really pushing on how your song was the most iconic when the question is best. And while, yes, iconic can mean best, it doesn't always mean best. And a lot of your points were, it's a catchy tune. Once you start playing it, everyone knows what you're talking about. And Kevin was able to hammer that. That's the exact same thing with his. When you said, you can't think of it, that doesn't mean other people can't. And even before I watched Game of Thrones, I had heard that song and knew it was Game of Thrones. So that song was stuck in my head before I even watched it. So again, slightest of margins, but I'm going to lean slightly towards Kevin on this one. Jonathan, we are moving on to you. Who gets your vote and why?
I'm actually going to defer. I'm going to actually pick Alan this one because he pointed out well, similar to what you said, Jacob, right here. I felt a little same way, but I only went Alan this one because even when people heard about his song, though, right here, even they didn't watch the show, though, right here, they recognized that tune of it right over here. With Kevin with Game of Thrones, though, I felt like it was there right here, but during half of your argument, though, you just talk about sort of, not to say behind the scenes stuff, but to talk about outside words. You didn't do much enough about what makes the song itself more, well, iconic right here, but a little bit more, why is it more impactful right here, though, besides that right here. I didn't hear enough of it slightly to have yours, so I would give my point to Alan.
All right, so just like last time, we are at an impasse, and Ryan, it is your job to solve this. We're currently tied 1-1. Who gets your point? Who gets the lead? And why?
Honestly, this fell to the closing arguments because throughout the debate, there were some good back and forth, though, but it ultimately came down to like which song was better instead of not telling me what makes it a good opening song. And while I did hear a little bit from Kevin in the beginning, like in his opener, as he talks about just the opening melody notes and also with some of the orchestral sounds to it, it didn't really tie into what about this would want to make me think it's a great opening song to the show he was referring to. What Alan, on the other hand, in his closing, he pretty much said when it came to the song, he wants something to help get him ready, or get him in tune, get him to tune him into what he's about to watch. And going off of everything while I'm reviewing them all in my head, I would have to go to Alan on this one. Because despite the fact Kevin did knock him back on the fact it's iconic, Kevin did lambast him on that too. But it ultimately just came down to you guys were just talking about the merits of your themes, like Will Smith versus the composer for I forgot his name though, but it became about two different artists instead of the songs. Like later into the debate though, it fell down to a debate amongst the artists instead of why does this song go with the Fresh Prince, or why does the song work with the Magnificent Seven? If I had gotten some more technical notes from that end, I would have had a decisive, there would have been a decisive decision. And also, really, it's every other Fresh Prince, it's every other Will Smith song. Kevin, come on!
Those are shots fired.
That didn't factor in, though. That did not factor in. That was just like a last-minute sting.
And again, these were two great songs. So thank you for making this hard on us. Although I will say, Kevin, I really enjoyed when Alan said, "Are you going to listen to the Game of Thrones song while running or working out?" Well, I guess as a matter of fact, I do.
I want to take a quick fact check for both of these songs, though. The Alice song, though, it is called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but the other titles is called You're Home to Bel-Air, though, which Kevin's composer's other credits were, and reading the following films right here. Thunderbirds, Blade Trinity, Open Season, The Unborn, Clash of the Titans, The Fright Night remake, Safe House, The Red Dawn remake, Dracula Untold, Warcraft, The Great Wall, and A Wrinkle in Time, and Slender Man.
And also the Prison Break TV series, which is a phenomenal TV series for the first season. We're not going to get into this argument. We'll talk about that later. I actually kind of enjoyed Prison Break.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So, Alan, you have taken the lead 2-1 as we move on to question number 4. Alan, this is where you can close out this debate and win it. Kevin, this is do or die. You get this. We go to the speed round. You live another round. So, let's get into it. Question number 4. What is the best Showtime original series? Since we started off with Alan on this one, Kevin, we are starting off with you. You have 90 seconds on the clock. Time starts when you start talking.
Dexter is based on Jeff Lindsay's novel, Darkly Dreaming Dexter. The story follows a man named Dexter who by day is a forensic blood spatter analyst, and by night he's a vigilante serial killer. And the show sympathizes with Dexter. You hear the narration by Dexter, and you sympathize with Dexter. You want him to succeed as a serial killer. That's different. From episode 1, you're rooting for him and all of his killing endeavors, and you don't want him to get caught. There are psychologists that have analyzed Dexter as a character, and why the show's audience has been so enthralled with him. Dexter has actually inspired amateur real-life killers. The show is the kind of show that it's just one of those shows that is just great. It has, from the opening credits, the music by Rolf Kent, intro showing the him tying his shoes, him putting on the shirt. It looks like it's symbolism of him killing himself, him smothering himself, cutting the pomegranate fruit. That those are all symbolism. And yes, there are some issues with James Manos Jr. He's the developer, but Michael C. Hall does a great job as Dexter through all 8 seasons, and I think he carries this show, and it's painfully suspenseful, darkly humorous, and I'll give the rest of my time.
All right, Kevin, starting us off with Dexter. Alan, 90 seconds on the clock to open up your argument. Time starts when you start talking.
All right. When we're talking about Showtime, we're talking about something that we can't see anywhere else. That has to be on a cable network where they can pull all the punches and never hold anything back, and complete and create a show that is unique, exquisitely unique. You can't see it anywhere else, and intriguing, and really works of art. Every episode is kind of a work of art, and that, to me, the best show on Showtime is Twin Peaks: The Return. A fascinating study in how to bring a long dead show back, to create or to go upon a psychotic mythology, with a universe, creating this whole universe within a unique property as a television show that spanned many different genres throughout the run of it, the first 2 seasons, and then they expanded upon that even more with this 3rd season, this Return, and a critique on the nostalgia aspect of all of the remakes and the reboots that was plaguing Hollywood and plaguing the television networks. A critique in how to do that, but the dangers of also doing that in this totally unique, masterfully done, masterfully told story, with all of its complications and beauty, and this real work of art by one creative genius, David Lynch, into this show that could be seen nowhere else, and it can maybe never experience ever again. A wholly unique television viewing experience, and that is Twin Peaks: The Return. And I'll concede the rest of my time.
All right, Alan conceding the rest of his time. We have Twin Peaks: The Return versus Dexter. We have 5 minutes to battle this out. Time starts when someone starts talking.
I will say this, Kevin. My show might have a cult-like following, but it never started an actual cult. You're talking about people wanting to amateur serial killers, a television show, inciting that? That is horrifying and horrible. The reason we want to watch TV shows is to escape reality and not to create monsters and killers. Dexter might have been an interesting psychology breakdown, but it became very rote and very, okay, here's the formula, and we're going to continue doing this throughout all of the actual series. It became very rote and that last season, oh my God. It took the good things I had from that first season and just kind of flushed it all down the toilet, falling into this formula, into this pattern, and becoming more and more unbelievable, just absolutely for what it wanted to do, what it wanted to become. I think it just kind of shot itself in the foot and ran itself into the ground.
Have you seen anything? Have you seen anything else David Lynch has done?
Oh yes.
He's psycho. So don't talk to me about creating crazy people. But as far as you're talking about spanning genres, Dexter is a psychological thriller, crime, procedural, horror, action, drama. and with excellent characters, Jennifer Carpenter, David Zayas, Eric King. I mean, these people are great. Not to mention, your show you're talking about is just Twin Peaks: The Return. You're not talking about Twin Peaks or Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. You're just talking about the 18-episode long-ass movie that David Lynch and Mark Frost made, which is one season of Twin Peaks: The Return, which they tried to spin off. It basically just became a Mulholland Drive. That's it.
It became a it didn't you didn't it was a single story into itself. Yes, it had bases on the first two seasons of the ABC series, but you could watch it without having watched those and got all the information that you needed through these characters. And talk about amazing characters. Dale Cooper and Dougie Jones, fascinating character. To see the dichotomy of these two things. You've got the giant, this mythical mythology in the Black Lodge, and this the first time you see it, you have no idea what's happening. But the more you think about how it ties in through the first episode to the last, it's a brilliant kind of discovery of a procedural, a horror film, a melodrama, a soap opera, all of these things. It expanded all these different genres into one episode or TV series that you couldn't see anywhere else.
David Lynch has a woman problem. He has a woman problem. He chose to frame this from Sam's point of view, keeping the camera steady on his body and face as he watches his partner Tracy. And Twin Peaks: The Return ramps up. We see that Lynch's habit of killing women in horrific ways hasn't gone away. Ruth, no.
Oh, he killed everybody.
Is a psycho. He's a psycho. And as far as
he's never been convicted of murdering somebody.
neither has James Manis Jr. But
you said yourself your show inspired serial killers. That's taking it to a realism that isn't necessary.
If I could just rebut about season 8, I knew you were going to go there. When it goes to season 8, I think James Manis Jr. actually had a stroke of genius there. When he goes to being a lumberjack, I think there's symbolism there. Trees are life, growth. They symbolize growth, life, fruit, bearing the hold on the earth. They hold the earth together. Dexter destroys them. And with Deborah's death, Dexter realizes everything he touches, everything he loves dies. So he exiles himself from Hannah and Harrison. He says, "I've got to save them from me." That's an exact quote from Dexter. Killing trees holds over his dark passenger until he can control it enough to get back to Hannah and Harrison.
All right. Man, this has just been a great debate so far. So let's close this out. Last round of question number 4. 60-second closings. Alan, since we start off with Kevin, we're going to start off with you on the closings. You have 60 seconds to close us out. And time starts when you start talking.
We talk about the best series on Showtime. Why Showtime? Because you can do things on there that you can't do anywhere else. On this cable network, you can do certain things. You can have a horror film. You can have a mystery. You can have a procedural, a melodrama, a soap opera. You can have all of these things wrapped up into one 18-episode series that does not wear out its welcome. The problem with Dexter, it wore out its welcome and drug it out for a really, really long time. With Twin Peaks: The Return, you get 18 episodes to tell a concise story that's intriguing, that's mysterious, has all these elements of all these different genres thrown into the mix. And if you do know the characters from the original series, you can find out what happens to them and find out, oh, okay, this happened to this character and this is why. The final episode, of Twin Peaks: The Return is probably one of the most amazing, brilliant, has the viewer questioning their reality, themselves, and what it means to be a person in this world. And that, to me, really is intriguing and amazing.
All right, as we move on to Kevin, close this question out. 60 seconds on the clock. Time starts when you start talking.
First off, Twin Peaks: The Return is just one long movie, 18 episodes. Dexter is not a really, really, really long time, unless you're a fly, I guess. But anyway, Dexter had episodes that encompassed his Dark Passenger. Not only that, but they had seasons with the Eye Struck Killer, the Trinity Killer, the Doomsday Killer, Dokes, Dexter himself being a hollow man and becoming a real man. It won 23, or nominated for 23 Primetime Emmys, 4 times Outstanding Drama Series in a row, 5 times Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series in a row, 9 times Golden Globe noms, 2 wins, 7 SAG awards,
Time.
1 a Peabody Award.
Time.
As we move on to the judging, Jonathan, we're going to start off with you. Who gets your point and why?
2 great picks by both of you right here, though. They're very excellent Showtime shows. For me, my point is to get to Kevin, because he pointed out why his show right here is sort of stands out right here and more as a series right here. Well, your Alan, though, it's more like a sort of like it's a sort of a sequel series right here, and also a bit of a mini series in some regard right here. It feels like even Kevin pointed out, it's more like feel like one long movie of regard with his. It's more the episodes right here is more talk about the killer's mindset and the relationships he has with it, even to come to know the people right here. So I would give my point to Kevin. And also,
all right.
And also, before moving on, though, I did some quick fact checks. The Kevin's part, you think is sort of like David Lynch is sort of a psychopath. I cannot find any records about him being a legit psychopath right here, though. There's no reports right here or his other career along with him.
Yes, and thankfully, Hippo will not let his psychiatrist tell us anything about those meetings that they have.
Thank goodness. Good Lord. Go watch Eraserhead and tell me differently.
You know, I take it that Kevin, you are not a big fan of David Lynch.
No, I actually am. Thank you. Thank you to Adam Collins.
All right. So, Ryan, we are moving on to you. Kevin has gotten the first vote. Who would you give your point to and why?
Okay. Going back over a few things. One, Alan, I don't think he ever got enough time to talk more on how Twin Peaks: The Return was a good Showtime original series, and it did hurt him going into the closing. And while he did throw a huge bomb at Kevin, where the show Dexter could have may have or did inspire serial killers, and I didn't hear much a lot from Kevin to counteract that. Like, he could have countered saying that any other show that focuses on crime or does like drug dealing or anything could have inspired other people to do certain things like that. Like Scream has the famous "Don't blame the movies for creating psycho killers; they make them more creative," you know. But outside of all that, this did fall to the closing, and Kevin gave more in the closing, not just by listening to the accolades, but also the accolades actually built more on everything he was talking about, how the character, the supporting cast that was in Dexter, the direction involved in Dexter, even as much as hated as the season series finale was, he did bring a bit of a positive spin on how it tied into the end of Dexter's story and decisions. So I'm going with Kevin on this one.
All right, and so with that, Kevin, you have done it. You've tied it up. We are going on to the speed round. And then once again, just because my point doesn't matter, this would have been another clean sweep. I wish both of y'all would have hit your opponent's choice more. There were only just like a couple points given to the others, which y'all both countered well. I did enjoy the Alan saying that his show has a cult following. Kevin's show legit has a cult following it. Which, hey, I mean, who knows? That could make it better. But, I mean, Kevin killed it in that closing with actually saying why his was a good show. Going into why season 8, most people hate it, why it made sense for everything. So I, too, would have gone to Kevin. This would have been a clean sweep. So with that, because we are tied 2-2, and I hate participation trophies, we are going to go on to the speed round. This is the way the speed round works. I have a question right here on my computer. None of y'all know what that question is. See, this involves y'all thinking on the top of your head, thinking on your feet, as some people will say. I'm going to read the question twice. After the second time I read the question, you're going to buzz in with your name. So Alan, say Alan. Kevin, say Kevin. Once you say your name, I will say whoever said their name first. Once I say your name, please give me an answer. You have 10 seconds to give me an answer. If you don't give me an answer, the other person will get to pick their answer. So don't be a jerk and say your name just to get in there first without thinking of something. Just like the other questions, the speedrun question also will have 3 rounds. The only difference is they are a lot speedier. Guess that's called, they call it a speed round. Yes,
Speedier.
speedier. The speed round question is going to be 3 rounds. First is going to be 45 seconds. Second is going to be 30, and then the last is 20 seconds. And again, it's pretty much exactly what we just did. Tell us what your answer is. Tell us why it's your answer. Tell us why your opponent's answer does not work. So with that, let's go ahead and get into this question. So with Disney Plus coming out, and a ton of Marvel TV series have been announced, let's talk about Star Wars. What sequel trilogy character should get a spin-off series? Again, what sequel trilogy character should get a spin-off series?
Alan.
Alan, what is your answer?
Poe Dameron.
Alan with Poe, and Kevin.
I'm going to go with Ray.
Kevin going with Ray. Neither of y'all went with the obvious choice of Unclar Plot. Y'all. All right.
Guys, come on.
Roast Tico in my book.
Yeah, even roast. Like, come on, guys.
Crap, what's that little guy's name?
Bobble Freak.
Bobble Freak.
True answer right there. All right. So now, since we've had a little entertainment, let's get into this.
How many seconds?
Jonathan, so the first one's going to be 45 seconds.
All right.
And Alan, you're going to start this one off. 45 seconds on the clock. Time starts when you start talking.
I think with Poe Dameron, you get to see from the military aspect of the rebels, or now the rebellion, the pilots. You get to see their training, how they became these amazing pilots that they are, and him maybe leading a squadron and going through different adventures, kind of like the space cops with the pilots, and see what it takes to be an ace pilot and an amazing pilot. And he has detective skills that he does as well. I think following him on his journey as being a pilot and leading a squadron of pilots through adventures throughout the galaxy, especially with all the chaos that would be happening after the fall of the new empire. But I think it'd be very, very interesting to watch.
All right, Kevin. 45 seconds on the clock. Time starts when you start talking.
As we saw at the end of Rise of Skywalker, Rey is now associating herself as Rey Skywalker. I want to see how she approaches that, living on Tatooine at the Skywalker hovel. I want to see how she approaches that and takes on possibly a Padawan, who that Padawan might be. And I want to see that training. I want to see the ins and outs of training with the Force Ghosts.
Time. All right. So now we are moving on to the 30-second round, the mid round, the meat and potatoes round, whatever you want to call it. Alan, 30 seconds on the clock. Time starts when you start talking.
I think we've seen enough of Rey and her story because of the training. And I think we've seen enough of that story. We've seen a lot of Jedi stories, but we haven't really seen a general story. And to see a general who's an ace pilot, who can train these new pilots and can be a detective in a space force, a police space force, if you will, going out through the galaxy and other places that we haven't been to before within the Star Wars universe might be really fascinating, really interesting. There's a lot of bounty hunters we know because of Mandalorian. So let's see the other side.
All right, Kevin, 30 seconds on the clock. Time starts when you start talking.
What Alan's describing sounds more like Han and Luke had a baby. Ben would be able to come back as a Force Ghost and help Rey along the way. And I would like to see that. Her Padawan, whoever it may be, possibly the broom child from The Last Jedi, who knows? But I would like to see her.
All right. Now we're moving on to the closing of the speed round. This is the most important 20 seconds of your life. I'm kidding. This is all for fun. None of you will die after this, anything like that. But I just like giving you some tension. So, Alan, 20 seconds on the clock. Time starts when you start talking.
We get to follow Poe and then all the characters that he would interact with: BB-8, C-3PO, R2-D2, Chewbacca. We could see all those characters and follow a new story of a space force going throughout the galaxy, trying to right the wrongs, the remains of the wrongs of the First Order and the Empire, the remains of that. And it'd be a fun police procedural.
All right, Kevin, close out this speed round. 20 seconds on the clock, and it starts when you start talking.
Alan's stuck on this police procedural thing. I don't get it, but I want to go to other galaxies far, far away and see what's going on in those galaxies and see what Rey can do to differentiate from what we've seen in the past and see what kind of impact that the...
All right. As we move on to the judging, Ryan, I'm going to have you start this one out. Who gets your vote and why?
It's really damn hard to choose here. Oh man, it's really hard. I guess if I have to, I gotta go with the one who gave me more, and that, especially within a short amount of time, that was Kevin. I got more from Kevin.
All right, so Kevin getting the first vote in this. I will go ahead and move on to the second one. and these would both be interesting shows. I kind of have to base this off of a technicality, though. In debate, not only do you have to defend your argument, you have to attack the other person's argument, even in the speed round. Y'all both did a good job of telling me what your shows would be about. But Kevin, unfortunately, the only thing you said against Alan's argument was right at your closing. You said Alan's talking about a police procedural. I don't understand what that is. And then you went right back into your show. Had you have spent your closing hammering, hey, Alan, your show sounds just like the Resistance TV show that we saw on Disney XD. And then you brought up, hey, you want to talk about the rise of the Resistance, and then you're bringing up what they're doing, fixing what the First Order did. You're going from beginning to the end of the series, and that doesn't make sense. Had you have done any of that, you would have my vote hands down. But unfortunately, you didn't do any of that. Alan, on the other hand, gave me a show, defended his show, and attacked Kevin's show. So I'm gonna have to go with Alan on this one. Jonathan, we are at an impasse again for the third time. Except this one actually chooses who wins this fight. So please tell me, who gets your point? Who wins? And who's going to have to pack up and go home crying knowing they did not succeed?
Okay. For me, the person for me, even though there was not a lot of kind each other right here, but the person for me who gets a point right here is to Kevin, because I think he put a good narrow answer with his pick with Ray right here, and it's sort of a narrow story right here. With Poe, I mean with Alan on this one, with Poe, because I just hear like Poe stuff around it, not sort of a narrow story idea for a series though. So I'm gonna give my point to Kevin.
And with that, and your winner, Kevin Haas. As we move on to the end of the round interviews, this was a fantastic job, both of you. You both did fantastic. But Kevin, you came out victorious. You came down behind 2-1 and took 2 straight questions. How are you feeling after that amazing comeback?
Oh man, that was I didn't think I had a shot. Alan did an amazing job, and I give him all the credit in the world. I thought he had me, so I don't know what to say. I'm kind of speechless.
Definitely. And it's always fun when you have a good competition like that. You just have no idea what to think afterwards. So
yeah.
All right. So again, this is your debut under my reign. But because you did have a match whenever Malcolm was in charge, and I didn't feel like resetting the records, I do have you sitting at a perfect 500 right now. 1 win, 1 defeat. Is there anyone in the world of late TV fights that you're wanting to take on, you're wanting to get above that 500 mark?
Oh Lord. I'm not sure. I didn't expect to win this one, to be 100% honest. We'll see. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not one to really call people out. So yeah, we'll see who falls into my lap, and I'm just happy to take anybody on.
Definitely. So you're gonna get what you get, not throw a fit.
That's
what I tell my
exactly right.
kids. That's some good life advice. All right, and going on to Alan. Alan, fantastic effort today, but unfortunately you weren't able to finish it off, but you still did great. How are you feeling after that?
I'm feeling great. And like I said at the very beginning, that guy right over there, Gentleman to the last. It won't even call people out. Good job on you, Kevin. Good job on you. No, Kevin was great. You know, he was cool, concise with his information and with it. So it, you know, I knew he probably got this one with the Ray. I don't know why I should have chose Ray, because Ray is technically my favorite character, but I wanted to go with Poe because I thought it'd be fun to argue Poe a little bit. I always have a good time with these, win or lose. This is always fun, no matter what. So, you know, I'm always having a blast.
All right, and that's always good to hear. And I'm going to ask you the same question that I just asked Kevin. Is there anyone right now? You're sitting at 0-2, but both were great fights. You fought some pretty good people. Is there anyone out there that you want to go against to get your first win in late TV fights?
To get my first win, you know, I'm not one for calling anybody out either, honestly. And just bring them on, whoever. I just want to do it again. You know what I mean? I just want to have the chance to do it again. So I'll take on anybody. No matters. I'll get a win eventually.
Definitely. All right. And that's the attitude to have, knowing that if you keep at it, you will eventually succeed in life, as long as you're not the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh,
sorry for any Bengal fans out there, but you put it on yourselves. Your team sucks. Anyways, this is Late TV Fights, not Sports Brawl. If you want Sports Brawl, talk to that guy because he's in charge of it. But for that, I have been your third favorite dad in the family community. Wait, third?
Third, you
I'm moving up in life.
You moved up, baby.
Moving up.
27 to third.
Single digits. Third favorite dad in the family community, Papa West, Jacob West. That has been Jonathan Peck. That has been Ryan Payne. That has been Alan Shepard. And that has been Kevin Poss. I don't care what y'all do with your lives. Do whatever you want. I'm not your dad, but I could be your papa.